Hey guys, so today I'm here to do my very late July wrap-up. Once again, July was a really good reading month. I read 15 books, which is I read 15 also in May, and that's the most I've ever read in a month, so I tied that again. I kind of was hoping I'd go to 16, but I was not able to squeeze a 16th in there. Oh well. But yes. So let's just go ahead and get started because I have a lot to show you. So the first two books I read in July were the first two books of the Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. The Summer I Turned Pretty, and It's Not Some Without You. Unfortunately, I really did not enjoy these two books that much. I have the third book too, and I was going to marathon them, but I just couldn't. After I finished book two, I just couldn't do it. There's just something about Jenny Han's writing style. Usually writing styles don't bother me, but her writing style makes the characters sound like they're like 12, and I just can't take it seriously. It's just something, I can't even tell you what it is. I had the same problem with To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and I don't know. I want to read the third one just so I can finish the trilogy, but I don't know. But I ended up giving the first one a 3.5 out of 5, and I gave the second one a 2 out of 5. And the next book I read was Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. As you probably know, I read the other two Morgan Matson books last month, and I loved them, and this one was no different. Actually, honestly, it was probably my least favorite. Not that it's hard to pick a least favorite because they're all amazing. I had one, like, little minor problem with it, and it was the fact that there was some times, because I've traveled a lot on interstates, you know, in certain areas that were in this book, and the way she was like going places, it wasn't possible. I didn't think it was really physically possible to visit all those places within a day because they're so far apart, and I don't know, it was just like a really minor thing, but it just kind of bugged me a little bit. But yes, it was still really good, and I gave it like I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads, but it's more like a 4.9, I think. If you want to read my, like, review that I did of it, I'll link that down below. And in that, I'll talk more about, like, why that 10th of a star got off. Okay, and the next book that I read was The Unbound by Victoria Schwab. This is the sequel to The Archive, which I read back in May, and I really enjoyed it. And this one was even better. I flew through it. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finally read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I've been meaning to pick this up for forever, and I just have never gotten around to it because it's so hyped up and everything. And I went into this with like super high expectations, and in a way I was a little bit disappointed. Not like it was bad. I really did enjoy it. I still think I like Eleanor and Park better, but there's some parts that were kind of slow for me. Yeah, I still really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And then began Book 2-bathon. I read the next 6 books that I'm going to show you I read for Book 2-bathon. The first book of those was Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is the first book in the Vampire Academy series. And I've been meaning to pick this up for a while, but it fit one of the challenges, so I went ahead and read that. And I ended up really enjoying it. I don't think I've read a strictly vampire book since Twilight, and that was a while ago. I don't have like too much to say about this book, but yeah, I really thought it was good. And I've heard the rest of the series gets better, so I'm really excited to continue. And I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book that I read was The Breakup Artist by Philip Segal. This was kind of a random book because I got it at a book signing, and I just kind of wanted a contemporary book after Vampire Academy. And I ended up really enjoying it, like, a lot. It was really funny. So much fun. I flew through it. It was hilarious. Would definitely recommend this book. And I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And I don't give very many 5s. At least I haven't been lately, so that's saying something. And the next book that I picked up, finally, was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I've been meaning to read this for a while, and once again I hadn't gotten around to it, but it fit the picture challenge for the Book 2-a-thon. I really enjoyed this book a lot. I loved the creepiness at the beginning. Like, the beginning was my favorite part, and then towards the end it did kind of take a different turn. It was more of like an adventure, which was fine. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't as good as the first half. But I was like enjoying the first half so much, and I was like, I think this could be like one of my new favorites, and then just, I don't know, it changed a little bit at the end. but I still ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to read the sequel. And the next book that I read was Glow by Amy Kathleen Ryan. This is the first book in a trilogy. It was kind of random. I got it from Book Outlet. I haven't heard too much about it, but anyway, so I went into it kind of not thinking anything, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like my favorite. It kind of had the same feel as Across the Universe, which I definitely like Across the Universe better. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue or not, but kind of didn't like where it turned at the end, but I still have given this like a 3.5 to 4 stars. The next book that I read was The Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan. I know, finally. This is the third book in the Heroes of Olympus series. I was spoiled on the end of it, so it wasn't like a big shock. Anyway, I ended up really enjoying it. The thing about Rick Riordan's books, I wish they were shorter. I know, I hate saying that, but I just, for some reason, getting through 500 pages, it takes me forever to like want to pick up one of his books because they're just so long. I don't like long books as much. I'd rather read shorter books. I ended up really enjoying this, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And I'll have to read House of Hades soon because the 5th one comes out in October. And the next book that I read was Of Triton by Anna Banks. This is the second book in the Serena Legacy series. I don't really have too much to say about it. Other than that, I did enjoy it. It was good, a good sequel. It did kind of wrap up, and I've heard that the third one kind of is not as good because it creates more problems, because this had a really nice ending to it, which I'll still read the third one. But yeah, I really ended up enjoying this. I still have given this a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Art of Laney by Paula Stokes. This was another book I got at the signing, kind of randomly. I had never heard of it before because I wanted to get it signed. Just like these, I love finding random books that no one's heard of and reading them and loving them. Also, she is also known as, her pen name is Fiona Paul, and she wrote the Venom trilogy, I think, which Cassidy Von Shea talks about. I haven't read that, but I didn't know they were the same person until I went to the signing, and it was really good. I loved that it was set in St. Louis, because I was actually just in St. Louis, like, a few weeks before I read this, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. And the next book that I read in July was Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, and I also read Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. I just kind of decided I wanted to finish off the trilogy. I really enjoyed these a lot. They're fantasy, and I don't read a lot of fantasy, but yeah, I thought this last one was a good conclusion. I give both of these a 4 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I read in the month of July was The Moon and More by Sarah Dessen. This is the only Sarah Dessen book that I have not read yet, and I was putting it off because I knew once I finished it, I wouldn't have any more Sarah Dessen to read until she comes out with a new one, which I don't even know. There's no release date for a new one. I know she's writing one because she's tweeted that she's writing one. I have to say this was probably one of my least favorite of her books. It wasn't bad or anything because I really love her books. I guess the characters weren't my favorite. I still ended up really enjoying this, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So that's all the books that I read in July. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye!